them out. What? I did. I just didn't take it off. Well, you weren't there. Yeah.
Are you doing homework?
Not really.
Um, Here's a copy of your statement for your card. If you have a second, I can explain it to you, and why don't you bring that food out before you, or whatever.
Yeah? No, thanks.
I still believe. It may seem obvious, but our seasonal guides will all soon be needing a
Reign of Giants added a series of difficult obstacles for the player to overcome.
It may seem obvious, but our seasonal guides will all soon be needing a watch through and through, as each can and will build off one another. That being said, since I have yet to get another one out beyond the winter one, I should probably get to work on that notion. So, the spring guide is here, and although the coming of the rains brings with it some mighty changes, I still believe that spring is one of the easiest stretches of time to survive and don't starve. Not because it sees rains being your largest concern, but because you should have already been fully prepared for the season 2 seasons ago. In other words, to prepare for spring means to prepare for winter. And to prepare for winter, our journey begins in autumn. I've said it twice, so I guess I'll say it thrice. Natural resource farms are a must if you wish to survive effectively. So, stop dilly-dallying and dig up some saplings anywhere you can find them. Go ahead and pillage grass from the grasslands, the guardian pigs, or any other locations you find them, and snatch up some berry bushes from Moose Goose herself, or just about anywhere. And bring it all together by day 10 to 12, and you already have a well-functioning base of operations. But use whatever remaining time you have in autumn to become an arson and destroy nature as we know it, so that you can use the crap ton of charcoal you're going to get to construct your cooking stations. And yes, certainly some drying racks along the way. Oh, and nab a gear off some dead machines or something for an ice box or two as well. Food preparation and enrichment boxes have been checked, but do yourself a favor and try to get farms up too. Sure, winter is coming and nothing will grow, but come spring, things are gonna be leaping out of the soil right into your belly. Farms are gosh darn useful, dang it, so get 'em, use 'em, and love 'em for Pete's sake. With all that done, you are either a day or two away or have just finished as the seasons begin to turn. Now, all you need to do is survive winter. But this is not a winter guide. It's a spring guide. So go ahead and watch the winter guide if you are struggling with that. But our priority today is Deerclops. We need to kill him through any means necessary. For the eye he drops can be made into what is known as the Eyebrella. And it's an item that not only prevents overheating faster, it comes with 100% resistance to wetness. And that is truly something to consider when we know what season is coming next. And oh yeah, it also prevents lightning strikes from having any effect on you. But that reminds me, bloody get a lightning rod up if you haven't already. Lightning strikes are far more likely in spring than any other time in Don't Starve and Don't Starve Together. So let's not have all of your hard work go to waste immediately once the season's turned. Heck, maybe even get 2 lightning rods. With that said, spring is here. But what exactly does that entail? Well, it means rain. Lots of rain. And your sanity will actually decrease by 5 per minute whenever the water is falling from the sky. But that can be negated with any of the rain gear that you equip. But make note, the wetter you get, the worse it becomes. Rain also has negative effects on fire pits, campfires, torches, and even Willow's lighter. All of which will extinguish far faster, as in like 150 to 250% faster during the downpours. But how do we go about protecting ourselves from it? Well, we should already have the umbrella, which is more than enough. But let's say Deerclops is a bit too much for you currently. My two recommendations are the Simple Umbrella, an item that is easily craftable and provides 90% wetness resistance, or better yet, a Raincoat. An item that is slightly more involved in the crafting aspect, but it functions the same as an umbrella. An item that is easily craftable and provides 90% wetness resistance, or better yet, a Raincoat. An item that is slightly more involved in the crafting aspect, but it functions the same as an umbrella, meaning you can continue to wear the Raincoat while having head armor still. But whatever the case, you are gonna need rain gear, especially if you're playing WX. So get it before spring arrives, or just as soon as possible. Now that our base and our person are looking mighty fine and protected from the elements, let's go ahead and discuss all the changes in the world itself when spring comes. Ice glaciers are gonna begin to melt, if not already melted. So hopefully you did in fact gather a ton of it, for storing the ice in the icebox makes ice an amazing filler all year round. Flowers can and will spawn regardless of whether bees are around or not. So they can be continued to be used for whatever purpose you please, and even more so in spring. But you can't please the bees. All bees within the constant are now hostile to the player no matter what for the remainder of the season. But thankfully, normal bees don't all become actual killer bee variants. But honestly though, bees are easy to handle, so this is not that big of a deal. But this may be a big of a deal and a shocker, especially if you've been relying on them for these past 2 seasons. Our rabbit friends have retreated, and the rabbit holes are actually crumbled in on themselves throughout the season. So I really hope you haven't put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to food sources. But speaking of food, the beef are in heat. Get too close and they will chase your behind in hopes to make it as red as theirs. But a beefalo hat can negate any of the negatives there. So you still have access to poop, you still have access to fur, and, of course, you can always lure one away to kill by itself. Houndways will actually consistently have blue hounds spawning far more frequently regardless of the season now. And the farther you get, the more this becomes. So perhaps have a strategy in place for that already. But just make sure your trap area hasn't been completely blown to smithereens like mine before the hound wave even comes. Idiot. And lure plants will actually begin to become one heck of a nuisance. But we'll talk about them more at another time because they can actually be quite darn useful if you use them correctly. But there is a pressing issue that needs our attention. The potential for frog rain. With frog rain comes, you guessed it, raining frogs. And this natural phenomenon is super annoying if you just mill about your own base. But just don't frickin' do that. Run into a trap setup or bring them to the horny beefalo to get them slaughtered. And slaughtered they will be. That, or perhaps Moose Goose herself can help you out too. And maybe even get herself killed in the process without you even lifting a finger. This is a fantastic way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But whatever the case, the end result is always going to be the same with frog rain. A crap ton of frog legs to be used however you like. A single frog rain can net you enough potential food to last you dozens upon dozens of days. So please try your best to make the most of one if you get one during spring. But you know what you can't really take advantage of, unfortunately? Drying racks. Well, at least not efficiently. Meat will dry slower if wet, and yeah, that's like questioning if the world is flat, so I have no arguments there. But just keep that in mind for any food prep you happen to wish to do. But let's also remember though that crops can potentially grow up to 300% faster in the rain, while also benefiting from a 25% bonus for it just being spring, for Pete's sake. Farming and crop harvesting are the kings of spring when it comes to food. However, do not neglect your other resource farms. Pick your twigs, Pluck your grass and get them berries, as they will all grow faster as well. And I recommend picking them when all of them are fully grown ASAP. Plus, if you've done the berry pen method, you'll be getting some extra meat along the way. But it's time to get thinking bigger. And by bigger, I mean Moose Goose is now the biggest thing on the map to even think about. I would delve deeper into how to murder her if we didn't just do it 2 weeks ago. So for now, just bear with me as we discuss her loot. Mama and her demon spawns will be dropping down feathers, and quite a Hello, everybody. Another day, another character guide. Today, it's the indigestible, the humanoid spider himself, Weber. Hello, everybody. Another day, another character guide. Today, it's the indigestible, the humanoid spider himself, Weber. It's time to discover just why he will never quite be alone. Let's get to it. Indeed, a humanoid spider he is. You see, Weber here is not one soul, but rather two. Weber will refer to himself as a single being as well as a duo of individuals upon examination of himself, which lends to the lore of a two-mind, one-body relationship that has grown ever since a child. The child within Weber was killed by a spider long ago. With this background, it is speculated that Weber was the first to enter the Constant, even before Wilson. It would explain how we were able to revive Weber with any of the other characters in-game. How did he get there then? Well, examining. Just as this month will serve as a look back at where we began, it may also come to showcase things left behind, like some highly requested guiding guides, for example. Chances are I'll show how to bonk almost every mob atop the head with the utmost efficiency, but something tells me that the bosses of the Constant may just be the priority. So, let's kill our... So are you telling me that 8 months ago I made a crockpot guide for both efficient hunger and health recipes and yet didn't do one for sanity? Whoops. Let's go ahead and fix that, everybody, and not only get to talking more munchies, but also produce our first ever sanity-related guide, believe it or not. So it looks like we may just have to have a set of sanity guides coming soon enough. But for now, know this. If we were to talk every food recipe that gave you sanity, we'd nearly be covering every single food recipe. And that is way too much. So today, we'll see us focus on recipes that grant 10 sanity and above. Sound good? Sounds good. And first up... Hello, everybody. So are you telling me that 8 months ago I made a crockpot guide for both efficient hunger and health recipes and yet didn't do one for sanity? Whoops. Let's go ahead and fix that, everybody, and not only get to talking more munchies, but also produce our first ever sanity-related guide, believe it or not. So it looks like we may just have to have a set of sanity guides coming soon enough. But for now, know this. If we were to talk every food recipe that gave you sanity, we'd nearly be covering every single food recipe. And that is way too much. So today, we'll see us focus on recipes that grant 10 sanity and above. Sound good? Sounds good. And first up, fish in a jacket of weed. Seaweed. California rolls have been a shipwreck staple for a while now. However, they have made landfall in DST not too long ago. The recipe for them is very annoying to figure out at first, but once you do, it's simple. 2 fish and 2 kelp fawns. That's it. Remember now, kelp fawns can be found on the water or sparsely on the lunar island, and they can be relocated closer to land itself to just make things all the more easy like. Ah yes, taffy, a classic sanity restoring crockpot snack that I think unfortunately people either forget about or maybe ignore quite often. But with such an easy recipe, it's kind of a shame that even happens. Whip some up with some honey and enjoy a quick 15 sanity per munch. Sure, it's gonna knock you for -3 health every time, however that can just be easily remedied to begin with. And keep in mind as well, the 25 hunger that comes with this dish. It's great stuff. Now here's one I didn't even consider until I started to make this video. Fancy spiraled tubers. These two are a somewhat recent addition to the game and apparently are flippin' amazing considering the overly accessible recipe and the fact that they restore 3 health, 37.5 hunger, and 15 sanity per meal. That is incredibly good. And man, maybe it's time to focus on farming potatoes. However, let's say you're a pumpkin farmer instead. You have the option to bake some pumpkin cookies for the team, always requiring a pumpkin and honey. These delicious desserts, 37.5 hunger and 15 sanity per meal. That is incredible. Let's say you're a pumpkin farmer instead. You have the option to bake some pumpkin cookies for the team, always requiring a pumpkin and honey. These delicious desserts restore a whopping 0 health, 37.5 hunger once more, and a nice chunk of 15 sanity again. Not bad. Your first result, players, I believe. Shame once more, really. As simply farming melons now and then could net you a food that grants 3 health, only 12.5 hunger, but a respectable 20 sanity per lick. Temperature by 40 degrees for another. Classic dish of Don't Starve, seafood gumbo. Yes, folks, it is no longer a shipwrecked only delight, and thankfully restores the same levels of stats as before. Expect 40 health, 30 slurp of the fishy eels from fishing in the caves, and just 1 twig. That, or just 4 eels entirely. Amazing. But here's another I myself have forgotten about. Vegetable stinger. I believe it was actually a Hamlet recipe before making its way to Don't Starve Together, but it's a dish that requires a tomato or asparagus, a chunk of ice, and then whatever other veggies you decide to put in it. Do so and enjoy 3 health, 25 hunger, which is actually significant considering the recipe itself, and some new. And if you totally forgot that banana pots were makeable and Don't Starve Together, because this guy did. If you efficient potential recipes to use from now on. But alright, raise your hand if you totally forgot that banana pots were makeable and Don't Starve Together, because this guy did. Raid the village biome or slaughter them spelunkies for them nanners. Toss in some ice into 12 point. Oh, you're now convinced that potatoes may just be one of the best crops to farm across the entire game. Because not only do we have first the spiral tubers, we now have creamy potato puree. Made from 2 potatoes, a chunk of garlic, and a filler that cannot be meat or twigs, mind you. But go ahead and third, surf and turf can be made using fish and meats. Yes, even monster meats, to create a dish that restores the whopping 60 health, 37.5 hunger, and 33 sanity per fishy munch. There's nothing more I can say, really. Surf and Turf is ridiculously good. You know, I can say, really. Surf and Turf, many crockpot dishes at this point. Salsa fresca is next, and I don't remember this bloody thing at all. Kind of unfortunate, because with just a toma root, an onion, and 2 berries, we can not only have some salsa for the big game, but one that grants 3 health, 25 hunger, and 33 sanity. Not bad, but may still not be my first choice. Last, but certainly not least, you scream, I scream, we all scream for ice cream. A chunk of ice, a squirt of
Yeah? No thanks. Alright, I'm full.
goat milk or butter, and a side of sweetness equates to a delicious dessert delight that deals 0 health in return, 25 hunger per munch, and the incredible 50 sanity per scoop of frozen goodness, the highest sanity restoring food ever. Furthermore, it will decrease your temperature by 40 degrees for 15 seconds. Absolutely lovely. But there you have it, everyone. Part 1 of a little sanity series I've been planning, and one we'll be getting around to soon enough. Now, I realize that there are far better ways to go about sanity restoration, so don't fault the video just because of that. We will talk sanity in general soon enough. This video was made solely to complete that set of Crockpot guides I mentioned earlier, and that's it. But thanks for watching, folks. Hopefully you too learned something new today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Sure. Just one though, cause I gotta keep working. What? Are you ready? No, there's nothing to wait. I said I just want more. You want to sleep? There's no shortage. own.